Have you ever looked around and asked yourself, is this really it? Is this part of the plan? Because if it is, then this plan doesn't feel very planned. You had dreams, you had blueprints, you had it mapped out like a GPS route, turn by turn instructions. But somehow life took a detour. And now you're stuck somewhere between where you thought you'd be and where you actually are, whispering under your breath, this doesn't look like the promise. You prayed, you prepared, you believed, and yet the door didn't open, the relationship didn't last, the opportunity slipped through your fingers. Was that part of the plan? Let's be real, plans don't usually break down when things are going great. They break down in the waiting rooms, in the wilderness, in the moments you thought would be mountaintops but turned out to be valleys. And when you're standing in the middle of that mess between what God said and what you see, your faith starts to feel fragile. Your confidence starts to feel counterfeit, and that voice in your head won't stop repeating, this isn't what I signed up for. But maybe, just maybe, what you call a breakdown is actually a setup. Maybe what feels like confusion is actually construction. Because sometimes God doesn't show you the full plan. He just gives you the next step. And it doesn't always make sense, but it's always making you. You're asking, why the delay? But God might be saying, because I'm developing something in you that delay produces and shortcuts can't. You're asking why the disappointment, but God might be saying, because what you call disappointment, I'm using as direction. See, faith doesn't mean you always understand the plan. Faith means you trust the planner. Even when it's dark, even when it's quiet, even when it doesn't look like what you imagined. The detour doesn't mean denial. Just because the route changed doesn't mean the destination has been canceled. I know what you're thinking. Why did I have to take the long way around? You had a plan. You had your eyes set on a specific path, a straight line from point A to point B. But somewhere along the way, life rerouted you. It's like the GPS of your dreams suddenly said, recalculating route. You thought you knew where you were going, and now it feels like you've been taken off course. You were expecting smooth sailing, a clear road ahead, but instead, you found yourself stuck at a dead end, forced to take a turn you didn't expect. You looked around confused. Is this really the path I'm supposed to be on? The detour feels inconvenient. It feels like a setback. It feels like a mistake. But I need you to hear me today. The detour is not the denial of your destiny. God doesn't show up and say, I'm giving you this dream only to take it away with a sudden change of direction. That's not how he operates. Sometimes the road is winding for a reason. Sometimes the delay isn't denial, it's preparation. We don't like delays. We don't like waiting. But I've learned that God uses the delay to deepen us, to develop us, to refine us into the people we need to be to walk in the fullness of what he has for us. I know it feels frustrating. You had an idea of how things would unfold. You envisioned the steps. But just because the map changed doesn't mean you've missed. It's easy to think that the setback you're facing is the end of the journey. But what if I told you that the detour is part of the process? What if that unexpected turn is exactly what you needed to grow stronger, wiser, and more prepared for what's ahead? See, God doesn't just throw you into your purpose. He prepares you for it. And preparation doesn't always look like what you thought it would. It doesn't always feel like progress. But there's something about the detour that God uses to shape you into who you're supposed to be. Maybe the detour is leading you to a lesson you didn't know you needed, or to a person you never would have met, or to a deeper understanding of yourself that can only come when you're forced to take a different route. The world may tell you that when things go off course, it's a failure. But I'm here to remind you that when God redirects your path, he's still on the throne, and he's still got you right where he wants you. What seems like a delay might just be divine timing. What feels like a wrong turn could be the very thing that positions you for your breakthrough. The route has changed, but the destination hasn't been canceled. It's just been delayed for the perfect moment. And here's the thing. The route may not look like what you thought it it would, but you'll realize when you get to the destination that it's exactly where you needed to be. You won't look back and say, I wish I'd taken the shortcut. No, you'll look back and say, I see now why the detour was necessary. I see now why the road was winding. I see now that it wasn't about getting there fast, it was about getting there prepared. You're not lost. You're being developed. You're not delayed. You're being prepared. Just because the route changed doesn't mean the destination has been canceled. Confusion is often the classroom where trust is taught. When you don't understand, that's when your faith is being refined. We all like to think that trust is something we can turn on and off, something we can just decide to do when we're feeling confident. But real trust, true trust, is built in the moments when everything doesn't make sense. Trust is tested not in the moments when the path is clear, but when the path is uncertain, when the fog is thick, and when you're standing at a crossroads with no signpost to guide you. How many of you have ever been in that place where you felt like you were spinning? Like you were walking through a maze with no exit in sight. You've prayed, you've believed, you've put in the work, but somehow nothing seems to be lining up. Nothing seems to be falling into place. And that's the moment when confusion creeps in. But here's what I've learned. Confusion isn't a sign that God is absent. It's a sign that He's teaching you to trust Him in a way you never have before. Because trust isn't just about what you see, it's about what you know. It's not about understanding every step. It's about believing that He knows what He's doing even when you don't. Think about it. When everything's going according to plan, you don't need to trust. When you know where you're going, when you're in control of the situation, when the map is clear and the destination is in sight, there's no real need for trust. Trust only gets activated when everything you thought you knew is turned upside down. That's when the classroom opens. That's when your faith gets put to work. Confusion is the environment where God starts to teach you the lesson of surrender. It's in those moments when you feel lost that God is saying, I need you to trust me even more now. Not because you understand, but because you trust the one who understands. When you don't understand, that's when your faith is being refined. Think about how gold is purified. It doesn't just get polished on its own. No, it gets heated. It gets melted down in the fire. And all the impurities rise to the surface where they can be skimmed away. You don't even know what's in you until the heat is on. The fire doesn't destroy the gold. It purifies it. It refines it. So when confusion comes, don't think of it as a setback. Think of it as the refining process. It's the fire that burns away your doubt, your fear, your insecurity. It's the process that removes the things that don't belong in your life so that what's left is pure faith, pure trust. And the more you go through it, the stronger your faith becomes. Here's the beauty of it. The more you walk through confusion and trust God in the middle of it, the more you learn to depend on Him, not just in the easy times, but in the hardest ones. And every time you come through the fire, you come out with a deeper sense of who He is and a greater confidence in His plan. You may not understand the journey, but you'll understand more of the heart of the one who's guiding you. So don't shy away from confusion. Don't run from the moments when life doesn't make sense. That's the classroom. That's where the real growth happens. When you don't understand, that's when your trust in God is being stretched. And every stretch, every moment of uncertainty, every piece of confusion, it's all part of the process of refining your faith into something unshakable. We all want to know everything, don't we? We want the blueprint, the play-by-play, the full picture of how our lives will unfold. We want to see the entire journey laid out in front of us from beginning to end so we can be prepared for every twist, turn, and detour. It feels safer that way. We want to have control. We want the security of knowing exactly where we're headed, what we're doing, and how it's all going to work out. But God doesn't always work that way. He doesn't give us the entire map, the whole plan, the end game right from the start. Instead, he gives us light for our feet, one step at a time, one moment at a time. He shows us just enough to move forward, just enough to trust him with the next step, even when we can't see the big picture. You know what that's like, right? It's like walking through the dark with just a small flashlight. You can't see the entire road, but you can see just enough to keep moving. The light isn't meant to show you everything ahead of you. It's meant to give you enough vision to take the next step. When you're standing in the dark and all you can see is that one small patch of light, that's when trust is tested, but it's also when faith is activated. The thing about light is that it doesn't make everything clear all at once. It doesn't light up the whole freeway ahead of you. It just illuminates the next few feet in front of you. And that's all you need for now. You don't need to know what's coming next year, next month, or even tomorrow. You just need to know what God is calling you to do right now. And that's where faith comes in. Faith isn't about having the entire road mapped out. It's about believing that the light you have right now is enough. It's about trusting that even though you can't see the full picture, you don't have to. God doesn't expect you to have it all figured out. He just wants you to trust him with the next step, even if that step feels small or insignificant. It's like a GPS that doesn't give you the whole route. It just gives you the next turn. You don't get to know the whole journey up front, but you know that if you follow the instructions, you'll get there. You may not understand why you're on the road you're on, but you can trust that God does. He's not leaving you in the dark. He's guiding you with just enough light to keep moving forward. And every step you take in that light builds your faith, strengthens your trust, and brings you closer to the place you're meant to be. If you were to see the whole map, you might get overwhelmed. You might be intimidated by the distance or frustrated with the number of turns ahead. But when God gives you just enough light for your feet, he's protecting you from the temptation to rush ahead or to worry about things that are outside of your control. He's teaching you to focus on the present moment, to take it one step at a time, and to trust that he's got the rest of the journey in his hands. When you're walking in faith, you don't need to see the freeway to know that you're on the right road. You just need to trust the one who's holding the light. And while you may not know the next 5 miles, you can rest in the certainty that the God who has led you this far will continue to light the way. This is the beauty of walking with God. It's not about having the full picture. It's about trusting the one who sees the whole picture. It's about believing that every step, even when it's taken in the dark, is leading you exactly where you need to go. God gives you light for your feet, not a spotlight for the freeway. And that light is all you need to keep moving forward. We've all been there, standing before a door that we thought would open. We've had moments where we poured our time, our energy, our heart into something, only to face rejection, setbacks, or silence. It stings, it hurts. You wonder why you put in the work, the faith, the hope, and yet that door stays shut. You feel overlooked. You feel as though your dreams are being ignored or delayed. You question, why did I even try if this was the outcome? But what if I told you that your disappointment, the thing that feels like failure right now, is actually part of a greater plan? What if I told you that the doors you faced that didn't open, the opportunities that slipped through your fingers were never meant to be your path? What if, just maybe, those closed doors were God's way of redirecting you to something better, something bigger, something safer? Here's the thing about disappointment. It often feels like an end, but it's actually a beginning. It's a moment where God is realigning your direction. In those moments when you're standing in front of a door that won't budge, God might not be saying no. He might be saying not yet, or not this. He's protecting you from something you don't see and guiding you to something you can't yet comprehend. I know that when we face disappointment, our first instinct is often to believe that we've been abandoned, that we've been forgotten, or that we're not good enough. We think of closed doors as a punishment, as though we've been overlooked, and we can start to spiral in frustration. But closed doors aren't about punishment. They are protection. Think about it. A door that closes is like a guardrail on a mountain pass. It's not there to stop you. It's there to prevent you from falling off the cliff. A door that doesn't open is not God's way of telling you you're not worthy. It's His way of protecting you from something that might hurt you in the long run. Maybe the timing wasn't right. Maybe the relationship wasn't healthy. Maybe that opportunity would have led you down a path that wasn't aligned with His greater plan for your life. We can't always see the danger that lies behind the door. We don't have the perspective that God has. And while we're focused on the closed door, He's already preparing the way for us toward a better one. He knows what we need, and sometimes that means preventing us from walking through a door that on the surface might seem like the right choice. But God sees the bigger picture. He knows where that door leads, and He knows it's not where He wants us to go. Now, that doesn't mean you won't feel the sting of disappointment. It doesn't mean you won't have moments of doubt or confusion. We're human. We hurt. But what I want you to remember is this. Your disappointment is not the final word. It's the space where divine direction begins to unfold. Every door that shuts isn't an end. It's a redirection. Every closed door is a signal to keep moving, to keep looking, to keep trusting. The closed doors in your life are not signs of your failure. They are signs of God's protection. He's saying, I love you enough to keep you from walking into something that could harm you. Those closed doors are not the end of your story. They're simply another step in the process. They are the way God keeps you safe. He's not punishing you. He's preparing you for something greater. And when the time is right, the right door will open. It's easy to become discouraged when doors close, especially when we've invested our hopes in them. But the truth is, every no is leading you to a better yes. Every time something doesn't work out, God is at work behind the scenes, creating new opportunities, opening new paths, and getting you ready for the next season of your life. So instead of seeing closed doors as a rejection, begin to see them as a redirect. When one door closes, don't focus on what you've lost. Focus on where God is leading you. Trust that He's holding the key to the door you're meant to walk through. And when the time comes, you'll walk through it with a sense of peace and purpose, knowing that every closed door was part of His protection and part of His plan. We've all had those moments where life feels like it's falling apart, where everything we've worked for, everything we've believed in seems to be crumbling around us. It's like the walls are closing in. It's like all the pieces of your life, your plans, your dreams are suddenly in disarray. You can't understand why things are falling apart when you've been faithful, when you've tried your best, when you've given it everything you've got. You might even feel like you're at the end of your rope, standing in the rubble of your broken plans, wondering what went wrong. You wonder, how did I end up here? How did it all come to this? You question your decisions, your direction, and you may even question God. Why would you let this happen to me? Why would you allow things to fall apart like this? But here's the truth. What feels like a breakdown might actually be the setup for your breakthrough. God is a master at turning moments of devastation into opportunities for transformation. Sometimes the only way He can take you to a new level, the only way He can elevate you is by breaking down what you've been holding on to, what you've been relying on, what you've been leaning into. Think about it. How does a seed grow? It doesn't just sprout into a plant the moment it's planted. It goes into the ground, and there in the dark, it gets broken down. The outer shell is cracked, the seed is crushed, and it feels like a death. But that death is actually the beginning of new life. The breakdown is the catalyst for growth. The seed has to break in order to begin to grow. It has to die to what it was so it can rise into something new. And it's the same with you. Sometimes God has to break you down to rebuild you. Not because he's punishing you, but because he's preparing you for something greater. If he's going to do something new in you, he may need to tear down some of the old things in your life. Old habits, old mindsets, old relationships, or old dreams. Things that may have seemed safe, secure, or comfortable, but comfort doesn't lead to growth, and stability doesn't always prepare us for the new heights God wants to take us to. We often want to avoid the pain of the breakdown. We try to resist it. We fight against the things that break us, not realizing that they are the very things that God uses to make us. A broken heart isn't the end of the story, it's the beginning of something new. A broken plan doesn't mean you're off course. It might mean you're on the way to something better. God doesn't waste pain. He uses it to shape you, to build you, to mold you into the person he's calling you to be. You can't see the breakthrough in the breakdown right away. That's the hardest part. It doesn't make sense in the moment. But God doesn't work based on our timing or our understanding. He works in the unseen, in the quiet moments when you feel like you're losing everything, when you feel like you're at rock bottom. God is busy at work, shifting things in the background, setting things up for what's ahead. The breakdown is just the preparation for the breakthrough. Think about the story of a diamond. A diamond is made under intense pressure. In the darkest depths of the earth, the rock has to endure crushing heat and weight before it can become a diamond, a beautiful, valuable stone. That pressure doesn't destroy the diamond. It refines it. It brings out its true beauty, its true value. And in the same way, the pressure and the breakdowns you're experiencing right now aren't meant to destroy you. They're meant to refine you. God allows these breakdowns in your life because he knows that on the other side of your pain, on the other side of your struggle, is a breakthrough that will elevate you. You may not feel strong now, but trust me, when you come through this, you'll look back and see how God used the hard moments to develop your strength, your faith, and your character. You will see how the pieces of your life came together in a way that only God could orchestrate. The breakdown doesn't have to be the end of your story. It can be the beginning of your breakthrough. So don't despair when things fall apart. Don't lose hope when things don't go the way you expected. God is using this moment to shape you, to stretch you, to prepare you for the bigger, brighter things he has in store. Life is happening. It's happening. And you have to see your breakdown is not the end. It's the divine process that leads you to the breakthrough. And when you come out of this, you'll be stronger, wiser, and ready to step into the future God has been preparing for you all along. We live in a world that thrives on control. Everywhere you look, there are messages about managing your life, controlling your circumstances, and having everything figured out. We're taught to plan, to prepare, and to make sure we're always in the driver's seat. But what happens when life throws you off course? What happens when the plans you so carefully laid out fall apart? When the things you thought you could control slip through your fingers? It's unsettling. Here's the thing about control. It's an illusion. We like to think that we have it all together, that if we just try hard enough or plan well enough, we can control the outcome of everything. But no matter how hard we try, there are things that are simply beyond our grasp. Life is unpredictable. People are unpredictable. Even our own emotions can be unpredictable. And when we realize that, it can feel like we're falling, like we've lost our footing, like everything is spiraling out of control. But here's the beauty in that moment. You don't have to feel in control to be in his hands. Just because life feels like it's slipping away doesn't mean you're not held by the one who has the whole world in his hands. You don't need to have everything figured out, every detail planned, every question answered. God doesn't need your control to do his work in your life. He's not waiting for you to get everything in order before he moves. In fact, the more you try to hold on to control, the more frustrated and anxious you become. We weren't created to be in control of everything. We were created to trust the one who is. And trust doesn't require understanding, it requires surrender. We don't have to understand every step of the journey to know that God is leading us. We don't have to have all the answers to trust that He knows exactly where we're going. Trust is not about knowing how everything will unfold. It's about knowing that the one who holds the future is also holding you. When you surrender, you're acknowledging that your life isn't meant to be a solo mission. It's meant to be lived in partnership with God. Surrendering is saying, I don't have all the answers. I don't know what's coming next, but I trust you, God. I trust that you're good, that you're faithful, and that you're guiding me, even when I can't see the way. This doesn't mean you stop planning or being wise or putting in effort. It doesn't mean you let go of responsibility, but it does mean that even in the midst of your plans, you hold everything loosely. You recognize that ultimately God is in control, not you. And that's not something to fear. That's something to embrace. Surrender doesn't come easily, especially for those of us who like to be in charge, who like to have a clear path in front of us. But true peace comes when we realize that we don't have to have it all together. We don't have to be the ones holding everything in place. When we let go, when we trust, when we surrender, we open ourselves up to the full experience of God's peace and guidance. It's like standing at the edge of a cliff, feeling the wind at your back. You could hold on to the rock in front of you, trying desperately to stay in control. But the true freedom, the true security comes when you let go and fall into His arms, trusting that He is there to catch you, to hold you, to guide you. You don't need to understand how He's going to do it. You just need to trust that He will. When you surrender control, you're no longer carrying the weight of your life on your own. You're no longer trying to hold everything together. Instead, you're resting in the truth that God's hands are strong enough to carry you. Trust isn't about having the answers. It's about surrendering the questions. It's about saying, I don't need to know how it will work out because I know the one who holds the answer. So in the moments when you feel like you're losing control, when everything seems uncertain and you don't know what's coming next, remember, you don't have to feel in control to be in His hands. You don't have to have it all figured out to trust that He is working on your behalf. Trust doesn't require understanding, it requires surrender. And when you surrender, you'll find a peace that surpasses understanding, a peace that comes from knowing that you are held in the hands of the one who is always in control. And so as you stand at the crossroads of uncertainty, as you face moments of doubt and confusion, remember this: you don't have to understand it all. You don't have to have it all figured out. What you need is to trust. Trust that even when you can't see the full picture, God sees the whole canvas. Trust that even in the darkest moments, He's holding you. Trust that every step, no matter how small, is leading you exactly where you need to go. Because the truth is, surrendering doesn't mean you're giving up. It means you're giving in to the power and grace of a God who knows exactly what He's doing. His plans for you are greater than any blueprint you could ever create on your own. And in His hands, you are safe. In His hands, you are not lost. You are exactly where you need to be, right where He can mold, guide, and use you in ways you could never imagine. So let go of the illusion of control. Release the burden of needing to have all the answers, and trust fully and completely that He is leading you to a future far beyond your wildest dreams. Your journey is in His hands, and that's the safest place to be.